Da 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 da. This is the I Read Star Wars comic books podcast special. I'm your host, Kara Szamborski, here with my host, Brian Murray.
Hi.
And you might be wondering why I started this episode with the Indiana Jones theme. To which I say, the character we're talking about today is a space archaeologist, and John Williams did both themes, so it's fine.
Yeah, it's close enough. Get off our backs.
So today we are talking about Doctor Aphra, the character and the series. And Doctor Aphra is very much a creature of the Star Wars comics. And we are doing full spoilers for the Doctor Aphra comic series, volumes 1 through 5, plus a little bit of the Darth Vader comic series in the early issues. So, Brian, where do we first meet the character of Doctor Aphra?
She is essentially hired on by the Empire to track down this, it's, what would you call it, like a droid personality matrix or something like that?
Yeah.
Basically a prolific murder bot. And she does. Then she winds up escaping with it and faking her own death to get away from Darth Vader.
As one does.
As one must.
So then she kind of segues into her own series because she is a terrific character right off the bat. So I think it's only natural that Marvel would have noticed, like, oh, fans like this character? Let's give this character her own book. And then it ran for 5 volumes.
Yeah, originally created by Kieran Gillen, if I'm not mistaken.
That does not surprise me in the least. So Dr. Aphra she's a space archaeologist, but she's just terrible. She's just a terrible human being, which is why she's such a fun character to read. Like, I realized while reading this book that everyone is such an asshole, and they're so much fun to read about, but I would never in a million years want to meet any of these characters in real life.
Yeah, probably not.
Like, absolutely no thank you. So with Volume 1, we're kind of getting a sense of these characters and who they are, and as you mentioned, murder droids.
Yeah, 000 and Beatty.
Who are just, think like C-3PO and R2-D2, but painted black, and all they want to do is torture. And then we have Black Chrysanthemum. Am I saying that right?
I think so, yeah.
Who's a Wookiee who's been augmented to be a more prolific fighter in the gladiatorial pits. And he's teamed up with Aphra for selfish reasons so that she can pay him back because she owes him for something. And I don't want to owe a Wookiee, let alone an enhanced one with, like, basically he has, like, the Star Wars equivalent of an adamantium skeleton.
Yeah, pretty much.
Like, no thank you.
His character, it's kind of like how, you know how Han Solo threatens that, like, Chewbacca could rip your arms off? Black Chrysanthemum will rip your arms off.
And we don't even have to ask him to do it. He'll just do it if you look at him wrong.
It's kind of his default state.
So the story, I think, for me really picked up when we get to sort of like the volume 1 that I was reading included the Screaming Citadel storyline as part of it. But I know Screaming Citadel is also another trade. So yeah, full spoilers for Star Wars The Screaming Citadel, where Dr. Aphra and Luke Skywalker are sort of, I hesitate to call it a team up because she definitely, like, kidnaps him.
Yeah, it's definitely like a frenemies situation.
Yeah, she's like, hey, we're going to go to this planet where this, like, all-powerful creature is going to grant us a favor if I, like, bring her something nice. And you're a Jedi, so that's nice. Yeah. Here. And it's this elaborate plot to get a hold of this crystal that's housing the consciousness of, like, a warped Jedi cultist.
Yeah,
I guess.
It was Immortal Rur.
The Immortal Rur.
It's from the Ordu Aspectu, which is like an offshoot of the Jedi, which had the added benefit of giving us the term Orthodox Jedi. Just really tickled me. I don't know why exactly. But
No, totally. And it's like we get this backstory where Aphra's dad is also, we would call him a historian or also a space archaeologist.
I think historian is probably correct.
I guess historian, and he's been like all about the Ordo Aspectu, and literally everyone is like, bruh, they definitely did not exist. And he goes on this adventure with Aphra where they find out, oh wait, they did exist. And that's where she got this crystal. So now she wants to unlock it and be like, hey, Luke, like, we can totally unlock this crystal and then you'll have a Jedi teacher. But when the crystal is unlocked, Luke is like, no.
I think I'm good.
Like, I'm fine. This is crazy. This is a crazy Jedi. Because the Ordo Aspectu were all like, we're going to live forever. Which the Orthodox Jedi were like, it's not the will of the Force, bruh. But I appreciated that the plot twist of living forever was just like putting the Jedi consciousness into a form where they could just kind of hop from technology to technology.
Yeah, and it's really kind of sketchy on whether or not that is actually his consciousness, or if he just made a really good AI that then killed the original. Because he talks about his original body like being possessed by an evil spirit or something, and him having to destroy it, which I took as just the AI deciding it wanted to be alone now.
Yeah, the Doctor Aphra series on the whole is just excellent in terms of Star Wars world building. Like, we're finding out about Jedi cults, we find out about space journalists and the Imperial propaganda machine. Like, there's a whole lot. If you have not checked out the Doctor Aphra series yet, but you are like all about Star Wars world building, you can't, there's no other series that encompasses so many tiny details of the day-to-day of living under the Empire as the Doctor Aphra series does. And let's talk about her Imperial girlfriend.
Oh, yes, please. That is Captain and then Lieutenant and then Captain again, Tolvan.
Yep.
Tolvan.
I appreciated this because it started with Aphra just being like, oh, she's cute. And
yeah.
Them just
it's like, I should kill you to protect my secrets, but you're very cute, so.
And then they end up like actually kind of getting together for a while. Oh, and then it's just full spoilers. It's so bad. It's so bad at the end.
Yeah. They, after Tolvan like rescues Aphra from a job gone sideways where they have their first kiss when they think they're about to die, which is a trope that I never get sick of.
Never.
And then they have like it's like 2 days later and they're definitely in like some kind of cabin retreat together before Aphra, sneaks out.
And then just like the whole, like, in order to save Tolvan from Vader, because Vader catches up to them, because he always does. Although in this particular aspect, it's definitely Tolvan's fault, because she's the one who reached out to Darth Vader in the first place to be like, hey, we're about to be murdered on this like prison junker that's about to crash into a planet. Please stop this crash because I know your secrets. And I'm like, all right, I have multiple questions here, but if it brings Vader to further the plot, fine, let's go with that. So to protect Tolvan from Vader, like inevitably just murdering the crap out of her, Aphra uses one of those like creatures like Bor Gullet in Rogue One to like rewrite Tolvan's memories, so Tolvan thinks she killed Aphra, and I'm like, yo, that is fucked up. like yeah. I am reading a fucked up book.
Yeah, real dark stuff in there.
Yeah, it's like this series gets darker and darker, but it still like feels kind of lighthearted because Aphra is such a like mess of a person.
Yeah, there's a certain like madcap zaniness to her character that is very endearing.
Yeah, she's like the manic pixie dream girl of murder. Because like she thinks she's doing like maybe not the right thing, but she like tries not to murder people, but then she just ends up murdering people because her like human version of a prime directive is to get rich and keep surviving.
Yeah, and I think the comic does a good job of showing her kind of grappling with that off and on.
Oh, yeah.
Where sometimes there will be those moments where you can tell that she's not crazy about the person she's become, but she doesn't know how to be anything else anymore.
And that's why I think it's so interesting that in this series, she is so often thrown together in various dynamics with 000, the murderous protocol droid she kind of booted up. It's like, first she's in control of him, and then he like starts running a crime syndicate and is like forcing her to do his dirty work, and then they end up getting like linked together. And again, one of the better tropes when it comes to this type of storyline, they have these like bomb implements in them where if they get more than 20 meters apart from each other, they both die. So it's like, and if one of them dies, the other one dies. So 000 can't kill Aphra, and she can't run away from him, and they have to go through this like imperial planet where it's like, look how nice and law and orderly everything is, without dying or attracting attention. Because oh god, what's that doctor's name? Dr. Cornelius
Evazan,
yeah, so he's the guy in A New Hope where he's the one who's just like, I'm wanted for murder on 12 systems or something like that in the Mos Eisley Cantina. And gets up in Luke's face. And so he's the one who's put these bombs in Aphra and 000. And he's also gone the extra step to make it so that 000's eyes are kind of broadcasting what's happening to the two of them to everyone on this imperial, like, perfect planet. So everyone's watching, like, this reality show of
it's very
their
Big
misadventures.
Brother.
It's extremely Big Brother. Or more like, what's that movie from the 90s with Jim Carrey?
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, you know what I'm talking about. That one.
Oh man.
Where you're just
I can picture people screaming the name at their podcaster right now.
Right. Like you're watching everything unfold and you're like riveted and watching your screen. And it's like through the context of this, Aphra and 000 having these like twisted heart-to-hearts where 000 is like, you're so much like me, Aphra, except you have guilt. This is a failure. This is why we can't be friends.
Yeah.
Like, bruh.
Yeah, that's the problem.
That right there is indeed the problem. But he's also sad because by this point he thinks BT-1 has been totally destroyed, including his like memory chip of his origin story that he desperately wanted to know about.
Yeah, I don't think we ever found out what his origin was.
No, they're in volume 5. He flashes back to it because Aphra, surprise, like had it all along or something like that, and he realizes that he wasn't intentionally designed to be this way. He was a failure, and he was supposed to be like put in the scrap heap, but he was already sentient, so he just like fucked up the lab assistant who was supposed to put him on the scrap heap, and then just kept murdering from there.
That sounds right.
Yeah. So then he had just kind of like a life crisis of, what do you mean my life has no meaning? And I'm like, oh, this just continues my argument that droids have sentience, and it's a problem that they're slaves then.
Yeah, that conversation has come up so many times in my life outside this podcast since we first recorded it.
But, like, for real, like, okay, you give these droids personalities and agency, but you also put restraining bolts on them. Like, that's slavery. Rights for robots. I enjoyed very much in this series that we saw another glimpse of Hera Syndulla. So I always appreciate her. And I feel like ever since she became a character, the powers that be at Star Wars are just kind of like, hey, we need an easily identifiable, like, higher up in the rebel command structure who isn't Princess Leia. Hey, let's bring in Hera.
Yeah. Yeah, she makes an appearance as Doctor Aphra continues her string of kidnapping high-ranking rebel officers.
But again, going back to Princess Leia for a second. So at one point, Dr. Evazin like impersonates her, and I have to wonder, how many times has Leia been impersonated over the years?
Yeah, I don't know.
And then how do you deal with that, knowing that there exist technologies or biological solutions for people wanting to pretend to be you?
Yeah, it's Star Wars deepfakes.
It's just terrible. I do want to talk about how like this comic series as a comic series is a great example of why I don't tend to like reading comics about quote unquote A-list characters. Like, for example, I love the extended Bat family for the Batman comics, but I generally don't read actual Batman comics because you can never really do too much with that character because there's too much money tied up in that IP. Uh-huh. But like Birds of Prey or Red Robin, I realize these references are 10 years old and I apologize. Like those kinds of comics where it's just kind of like, we've made up characters, so now they can do whatever we want because there are no stakes involved. Like those are the comics I tend to gravitate to because you can do so many more interesting things. So I really appreciated the Doctor Aphra comic because since she's a comics native creation and basically only the people who are reading Star Wars comics know about her, they have so much more leeway in terms of the types of storytelling that they can actually do with her.
Yeah, and because she's not tied into the film continuity and she doesn't really interact with any characters from the film continuity besides, you know, the occasional drop in from Luke or Darth Vader, you don't have to worry about knowing what can or can't happen with this character. Like in the main Star Wars comic, that took place between New Hope and Empire, I think. Mm-hmm. And like you know that Luke is gonna be fine. He's gonna make it. But like you get a character like Black Chrysanthemum or something, and we have no idea if that character is going to survive or not because he's not in the movies, so he doesn't have to make it X distance through the storyline.
Mm-hmm. So that made the ending of this series all the more stressful for me because you're reading Dr. Aphra and you're so invested in this character, and then you get to the end and you're like, but does she live?
Is the series over? Because I thought it was still ongoing.
Well, at the end of Volume 5, they end it by saying "the end!" ! So if it is still ongoing, I would love to keep reading it. But
yeah.
In terms of the trades that are out right now, the trades are up to, I think, Volume 5, and the end of Volume 5 is like, maybe she's dead? ?
Was that the Rebel superweapon arc in Volume 5?
No, maybe there is a continuation that I'm unaware of. Okay. Volume 5 is the one where she and 000 are kind of like doing their whole bomb thing. Let's get it dismantled.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. No, there's definitely more after that.
Yes.
I've been reading the single issues, so I wasn't quite sure where the volumes broke apart.
Well, then I will have to continue reading because this is brand new information for me. I did my research before we recorded.
Yeah, it's great. Tolvan comes back and she's a rebel now.
Yes. Okay. This is all good information to have. So I guess spoilers beyond Volume 5 of Doctor Aphra.
I mean, look, you guys know the score by now, right? We've spoiled everything we've talked about.
We just spoiled everything for everyone. That makes me happy. Do you think Dr. Aphra will show up in other Star Wars media?
I desperately hope so. And I've heard rumors that somebody might have been talking about like a Dr. Aphra Disney Plus thing.
Oh, please, yes.
Absolutely no confirmation on that. It could just be wild speculation. But I would love to see more Dr. Aphra, especially in like an animated medium.
Oh yeah, that would be so much fun.
I feel like she's too much of a cartoon to really be in the live action universe.
Well, I agree with you, but also I'm just thinking, I don't think they would give the budget necessary for live action special effects to go as far as they would need to go for how much explosions happen around her.
Yeah, all of her exploding tukas.
Oh, those are so cute. I think that's a great example of her kind of moral ambiguity. So these tukas are these little fluffy, adorable creatures that look like smaller loth cats almost.
Mm-hmm.
And she just kind of like has cloned a bunch of them, but genetically modified them to explode when she uses a code word. And I'm like, Aphra.
Oh, God. What was the code word? It was something super dorky.
Like snuggle wuggums, oogie boogie or something like that. And I was just like, oh my God. And there's like one line where she says something where someone's like, what the hell did you do that for? And she's like, they do both the things that you would need. They can snuggle with you and they can explode. Like, those are the two solutions for most situations. And I was like, what?
I think it was like, there are very few things that can't be solved with a cuddle or a crater.
Which are like, okay, fair, but also, ooh, that's a very, very specific moral argument.
Yeah. Yeah,
Or a moral argument.
I'm not super fond of these living weapons you've created. I mean, I'm very fond of them. I just hate that they blow up.
There are so many delightful, like, side characters introduced in this series. I appreciate, I forget what the exact name of this droid is, but there's like this super wigged out droid who's like says all his lines in a weird poetry and is like covered. Yeah, and he's got like little like paint marks all over him because he's just trying to express himself.
Yeah, it's like Deck Nil or something like that.
And this little droid like is part of this I guess part of that crime syndicate that 000 was running for a while, and Aphra had him on a mission, and it's just every time he spoke, I was like, oh, you adorable tripped out droid, look at you. And then the characters of, oh god, those monster hunters. Why am I blanking
Win,
on
Loss,
your
and
names?
Knock.
Yeah, they're terrific. It's a married couple. One of them is a reptilian species and one of them is humanoid, and their banter is everything.
Yeah, they're the most married couple you've ever seen in Star Wars.
Like, I desperately want them to have their own TV show. It doesn't have to run long. It could just be like a mini series special, but like I would like to see them hunt monsters, please. Yeah,
almost like they could do like a little like wildlife show or something with those two going from planet to planet.
Oh man, like Steve Irwin, except it's Star Wars.
Yeah.
Oh man. Yeah, this was so satisfying to read, like as a Star Wars fan and as a comic book fan. And now that I know that there's more than Volume 5, I definitely want to keep going.
Yeah. We dig a little bit in what will be Volume 6 into some kind of like Jedi weapon that was basically a lightsaber gun.
What?
Yeah,
wait,
it's like
wait. But the Death Star is technically a lightsaber gun because it uses kyber crystals also. Is this the same concept, but they're not calling it the Death Star?
It's like a sniper rifle instead of a big planet blowy uppy gun, so that they want to like assassinate the Emperor with it, essentially. I'm
still feeling like this is the same technology with a different rebrand.
It is, yeah. They actually like they put a lightsaber into it in order to fire it.
That sounds like a lot. That sounds like just a little too much.
Yeah, the rebels hire Aphra to like steal this artifact so that they can repurpose it.
They hire her after they have looked at her entire track record of dealing with the Rebel Alliance.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think anybody's thrilled about it, but she is the top of her field.
I have so many questions for everyone who works with this woman, especially because in volumes 1 through 5, multiple people describe Aphra as like a flaming trash compactor. like she's a Star Wars dumpster fire, which is why she's such a great character to read, but you would never actually want to hang out with her because you'd probably die.
Yeah, like that's the thing. Like I'm sure that we could have a great time, but then she would like kick my knees out in order to escape from something.
I think I appreciate her so much because so much of the Star Wars movies and some of the canon, everything feels so like high stakes and good versus evil. But then you get a character like Aphra who's on the fringes, who's just doing exactly like whatever she wants, even if she doesn't always know what she wants. And she's just kind of making everything up as she goes, which like you're saying, oh, but that's what Han Solo does. And I'm like, well,
that's what Han Solo did.
That's what Han Solo thinks that he does. But Aphra is really genuinely like, I am making the decision now for what's happening right now. And if I have to shoot someone, oops, let's keep moving.
Yeah, in one of our previous episodes, I think I called Han Solo chaotic neutral, and that was not accurate, because Doctor Aphra is chaotic neutral.
Yeah, just delightful. Like, highly recommend her series if you're a Star Wars fan at all. And like, even again, just from a comic perspective, I thought it was a very well done comic. There's lots of elements from the earlier volumes that tie in and do become relevant in later volumes. Like, it doesn't really feel like anything gets just kind of kicked to the side and ignored. It feels like a constant building.
Yeah, I definitely agree. Even like the stuff with her mother, there's a throwaway line when she's talking to her dad about like the Imperials drop her off with her dad because her mom has been killed. And she's like, oh yeah, they said I might have some issues. And like, then
really?
in some of the more recent single issues, we've actually been able to explore what her relationship with her mother was like. Like we get her flashbacks on that time.
So it's like that throwaway line becomes something that you need to pay attention to. But I don't feel like it does that in a way where it's like, oh, you have to read absolutely everything or else you'll have no idea what's happening. It's just like, oh, if you've been reading everything, here's a nice bonus because you remembered what was going on.
Yeah, 100%. Like, because I had forgotten about that line when I read the single issues that have stuff with her mom. But it was when I was rereading Volume 1, I was like, oh, wow, yeah, they planted the seed a long time ago.
Mm-hmm. Oh, so I see Star Wars Doctor Aphra Volume 6 is going to be released, is released December 10th. So I will be reading it at that time.
Merry Christmas.
Yeah, Merry Christmas indeed. More Star Wars. Man, Disney's going to have like the best quarter. Like they've got, they released Disney Plus, Frozen 2, and Star Wars The Rise of Skywalker. Like, they should just have a printing press for money because that's what's happening to that company right now.
Yeah, and the worst part is that so far all of it has been really good.
All of it's so good!
It's like,
God damn it, Disney.
I feel like such a corporate shill, but like they're kind of nailing it.
It's like painful, but I'm like, okay, I'll give you my entertainment dollars. And meanwhile, Warner Brothers is just like, hi.
Remember Suicide Squad? We could do another one of those.
Oh boy. Well, we'll wait and see. But
that's main show talk, not Star Wars talk.
No. But okay, yeah. So Aphra, overall, highly recommend. So excited to read Volume 6, and we're almost there, Brian. We're almost at Rise of Skywalker.
We're getting close.
So close. The Force is strong with us. We got this.
It's true. Actually, I'm not sure what our release schedule looks like. I think that Aphra Volume 6 might be out by the time people are listening to this.
Yeah, so you can read all of Dr. Aphra in one go. All right, so next time we will be talking about the Resistance. And then the time after that, we will all be talking about full spoilers for Rise of Skywalker. I'm ready. Thank you for listening to the I Read Star Wars comic book podcast presented by I Read Comic Books. This show was first aired on the IRCB Patreon at patreon.com/IRCB podcast. Special thanks to all you wonderful supporters out there.
You can send us feedback about this show at ircbpodcast@gmail.com and check out our website, ircbpodcast.com, for our Discord, zines, and all things IRCB. You can also follow us on Twitter and Instagram at ircbpodcast.
This show was produced by Brian Murray and Kara Szamborski, edited by Zander Riggs, with Mike Rapin as executive producer.
Thanks for listening, and may the Force be with you.